Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're at 2 minutes after 7. I don't even know what day it is.
It's Thursday. Don't ask me the date.
So, yesterday I swore it was Thursday all day. So, thank you for being with us. Uh, if you have not already been with us live, my name is Bunny. Um, and I am the person who pays the bill to the bank every month for this store we have here in Wilmington, Delaware called So What. Uh, Karen Larson Jones is with us from the West Coast. So it is now 4 p.m.
It
out there.
is 4:03 according to my computer.
And she has been here answering just some follow up questions um, for a little while. The videos will actually post in sort of out of order. Um, so when we post this, the question and answer session will be its own video, and then this class will be a separate video. I'm going to do a couple of quick pieces. So just real quickly, let's see. Here we go. Okay, we've got a lot of reflection and all kinds of notes in this picture. And I'm going to spotlight me so that everybody spotlight me. Can everybody see me? It's not really me, it's some stuff on my table.
You can see the manuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So real quickly, we do know that a lot of you got download copies of the software. If you did not get a hard copy of software, these manual sets are available. And we are down to 4 copies of them. They were originally, I think, either $99 or $199, quite frankly. I can't remember which. These are shorter than the big reference guides that are part of your software that you can print out. But if you are interested in having a set of these printed getting started books, let me know. I have 4 copies of those in the store, and they would be closeout price of $50 each plus whatever shipping is. So I just kind of wanted you to know that. Now we're going to go ahead and screen share tonight, and let's see if I can make this work. Nope. It doesn't want to just show my desktop. And I have no idea why. I love technology. But that's all right. I'm going to go ahead and minimize our Zoom and go over to my desktop and open up software. What I really want to show you is, and what I'd like tonight as much as possible, even if you need to put us in the background and open your software, I would love for you to be able to follow along with us tonight. My desktop is not empty. Oh, yay with the computer technology. So that one is not, I can't minimize Zoom. Y'all, I just give up on this technology thing. I set this all. Oh, exit full screen. That's my problem. Okay, move out of my way, Mr. Zoom. Here we go. It only took 3 tries. Maybe. We're going to do this one more time. Ready? We're going to share this over to, and what you've been watching is Karen's screen. Nope. Hey, Karen, can you quit your screen share? I think that's part of what's blocking mine.
Stop screen share. Sure.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Sorry.
Okay, so we got me. And this is hopefully my desktop. Yes, Barbie? Okay, Barbie is here with us. So she is answering questions. So what I want to kind of be sure that we are aware of is The quick reference guides or the quick start guides I just showed you are the shorter versions. The long guides are here under guides. Okay. But what we want to do is go ahead and get everybody on the same page. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do tonight is going to change some of your settings. So I realize that this is a little scary. If you have set certain things up on your software, we're going to do this together. So the first thing we're going to do is go into our Premiere Plus 2 configure. We're going to open that and we're going to hope that I don't lose the share. Did configure show up, Barbie?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Because yay, Zoom. It just can't seem to follow along with me. I don't know why, but it can't. New share to configure. Okay, so here's configure. We talked about configure in the first class. If you were unable to join us for the first class or two, those are up on YouTube. And the Zoom link for tonight did include that. Just a reminder before we get too far, we are recording these classes. They are posted to YouTube. So by you being on camera and with your audio on at times, you are consenting to allowing us to host your face and or voice, because there's all that legal stuff that goes along with that. We have no problem if you don't want to have your camera on, don't want to have your microphone on. The chat window is there. And tonight, really what I want you to do is follow along with me. So when we teach software classes, it is easiest to be sure that everyone has the same settings on their screen by coming in here and clicking on Reset All Modules. Now, before you do that, if you've done anything funny with your screen, if you've set up and configured things in a very specific way, you can back up your settings first. A lot of us have not gotten that deep into software and or we teach software, so it doesn't really matter how we set it up. So to make sure that everybody has the same visual, things are back to sort of factory settings, we're going to go ahead and reset all modules. That does tell us that everything is going to be closed and reset to their default settings. And then it does ask you to confirm. Okay, and then it does a reset. And you'll see when we open this back up, depending upon where you were, this may just change how your visual is on screen. So I'm going to say okay here. And I'm going back to my previous screen share. And this is back to our Premiere Plus 2 system link. And I want to go ahead and open Premiere Plus 2 embroidery. Now, tonight we have multiple software versions in class. There are some people who had just the free software and have asked to just sort of stay on and see what more advanced software will do. Premiere Plus 2 is out of production and is only available for sale within the United States in shops that still have it in stock. Now, I was emailed and asked a question about software outside of the US, and the answer is I really don't know. You guys, I can barely keep up with what's happening here. So we're just, suggesting if you're outside of the United States, you check with your local shops. Within the United States, we do want you to check with your local stores. The system has switched over as a primary software system to the new MySonet software. And I did hear as we were setting up and Karen was on question and answer, if we were going to do any education on Sonet. And the answer to that is a little more complicated. And it is sort of yes. However, it's going to be a little bit further out and those classes will not be free. Just because with the Sonet, especially with the subscription-based system, the shops don't get any portion of those sales unless you do a whole year up front. And I want you all to buy, from your local dealers or to do the monthly subscription. If you reach that point, there is an upgrade path for you if you want to move from Premiere Plus 2 to the new boxed SONET system. I'm not ready to talk about all that. If you are a local customer and you want to know more, we can do that. But if you want to know more about it, please ask your local dealers. Now, once I've opened my, I know, I realize that. Once I've opened my Premiere Plus 2 embroidery system, failed to start. My window is invalid. Okay. And my computer, because I clicked twice, it, well, 4 times, it actually opened 2 copies, and so I shut one down. So what we should have is our Premiere Plus 2 system that looks just like this. And if you, as we go, if you have a question, please use the chat. If you need to talk to me, feel free to touch the spacebar on your keyboard. It'll unmute you temporarily. And what I want to be sure is that we're, again, all looking at the same screen. So I'm going to go to the ribbon toolbar at the top and click on Change Hoop. And in the interest of the fact that not everyone who owns software has either a Husqvarna, Viking, or Pfaff, this software is universal for multiple brands. We're going to go ahead and let the hoop group be on universal. So you may need to drop down on that depending upon where your system is set up. And I want to use my 260 by 200 hoop within this universal. Now I do want rotated selected, because that just gives me a little bit more space on my screen to look at. So what does rotated mean versus natural? Natural is the way this hoop attaches to my machine. So it would be vertical on screen, but this is going to be a lot easier to work with rotated. And I'm going to go ahead and say okay at that point. Anybody have any questions so far? So the tutorial that I'm working from will become available as a download after class. Barbie posted the links for the YouTube as well as the handouts from the previous 2 classes. Because we are doing these classes at no charge, we are charging a small fee for the class lessons, should you feel that you need them or would like them. So adding to this screen that we have, we're now going to go again to that ribbon toolbar and go to Super Design. And I know Karen talked about Super Designs 2 weeks ago. Now we can search for Super Designs, but we're going to make life a little bit easier tonight. And we're going to go to Category. And we're going to select on All. Now, if you have Intro, you will have less options showing up than I do. If you have Embroidery, you will have less options, but more than Intro. If you have Extra, you will have less options than I do, but more than Embroidery or Intro. I am working from the Premiere Plus 2 Ultra system tonight, as is Karen. So when I go to this drop down, you'll see that all of these images are highlighted or showing up in color. If you see things that are gray, that's because those were not included in your software. Okay, so we're going to go to this gallery view here, which I just did. That lets me see everything. And I'm using the scroll on my mouse, but you can go ahead and left click on this slider here on the right hand side, or you can use the arrows at the top and the bottom. And what we want to look for is something called Celebrations 1. And I think it's funny that we're going to Celebrations because my birthday was last Thursday, but we did not plan this. And that was part of what planned the timing for these classes, why we did them every other week versus once a week. So we're going to go ahead and select the cupcake, the birthday cake. It's really not a cake, it's a cupcake, or it's a cake for one, right? A cupcake is a cake for one. And then we want to go ahead and decide what style we'd like this. So now I'm going to click on Select Style, and what you'll see is we have color and line. Now, here in the store, We are a Kimberbell dealer exclusive shop. We're also a Kimberbell event shop. Um, and I know a lot of you who are familiar with Kimberbell recently may have been on the Kimberbell sale that they did. And if you bought that goodie bag and you got those pencils, let me tell you, this line option here is really great to go ahead and use and stitch and then color in with those pencils. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, basically by creating outlines with embroidery, we can embroider on cards or paper and then color it in. Now, whether we use those specific pencils, which were a watercolor pencil set, or we use whatever coloring apparatus we have, whether it be paint or pen, um, you know, blood, if that's your, want to stab yourself with a pin and oops, we can go ahead and color in. Please understand that I'm a little sarcastic. So we have these two choices. Okay, so we can toggle between those. Everybody but the free software will be able to follow along. The tutorials are written in such a way that we're sure that you all have these. Okay, so whether I pick line or fill, okay, color or line, I'm going to go ahead and select line. And then to the right of that, again, on the ribbon toolbar, I can set my size. Now, I am set for metric, but you'll notice as I hover over the size, my inches shows up. So they're having us set this to 3.5 inches. Whoops, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So I'm going to put in 3.5 and use the inch icon on my toolbar. I'm not my toolbar, on my keyboard, and hit enter. And you'll see that that automatically switches over to millimeters. So if you're somebody who's thinking in inches, but we've asked you to work in embroidery math, you can go ahead and type the numbers in English, or sort of standard measurement, and the software will automatically convert for you. So that's a really neat thing. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and apply this. Now that's going to go ahead and put that right in the center of the screen. If I decide that I'd like it to be color, I can go back to select style and color. Go ahead and change. Now I know that time that it was 89 millimeters, so I'm just going to highlight the 60 and change it to 89 and apply that. And there we are. You see how easy that is to go ahead and switch those back and forth. Now we talked before, or Karen talked last week, about the fact that these designs still have the green handles. And what I say is this is still a malleable piece. This is still dough and it hasn't been baked yet. So we can go ahead with our super designs, with our fonts, with our frames within the system. We can still play with this. Change the sizing. Our stitches aren't set. Our density is not set. We've got a whole lot more control right now. So go ahead and drag one of the corners. And you can make this design bigger or smaller. Now, if you followed along with me exactly as you make the color or the filled cupcake larger or smaller, you'll find that the other piece is behind you. Okay, and we'll go ahead and delete that in a little while. So I can make it a tall and skinny birthday cake for one, because that's what I aspire to be, tall and skinny. Or I can make it, well, it looks a little more like me. Well, I'm relatively tall. So we can go ahead and play with this. You've got unlimited undo and redo on our software. So on the very top toolbar, you'll see we have these two blue arrows. And I want to go ahead and undo all my changes. And I'm actually going to undo till I'm back to a completely blank screen so that I have my cupcake. I am sure that I am on color and I'm going to apply it. So I'm back to my original and I don't have that second piece behind there. Now, when you saw me moving these around before, I was just kind of dragging left, right, up and down. and it was allowing me to make the design tall and skinny or short and squat. We can actually do a little bit of locking of that aspect ratio or those proportions, that height to width proportion. And that's really easy. If I just touch the control button on my keyboard and hold it down when I go to drag one of these corners, you'll notice that it stays proportionate to the original. Now, I will be honest with you, I've had designs where I didn't think the original proportions were great. So I may have changed it a little bit to where I liked the proportions, and then I went ahead and locked in that aspect ratio is what it's called. So we can go ahead and play with that. Now, if I'm not comfortable with the way this is dragging from one corner to the other, if you use the control and shift buttons together, you'll see that now I get this size change, but it works from the center out. And that tends to be a little bit easier for some people. Control and shift, both. Okay. So when do I use one versus the other? And I will tell you that what I'm about to tell you is not in the handout, but it does help to kind of decide. If I just want to make it bigger or smaller, I'm going to use both. But if I need to fit it into a space, so if I look at my hoop that's cut into 4 quadrants, and I need it to be the height of this upper right quadrant, I may go ahead and put that bottom left corner in, and then I'll just use one. I'll use just the control to make it just the height. So I'm hoping that that little bit of information is really helpful. Now we can also make changes to this by right-clicking on the design and going to our properties. Okay, and you'll see there's some information here about satin column, pattern fill, triple stitch, running stitch. Okay, I want to see all of the properties. And so this gives me my size, my percentage, height, and width. This is in respect to the original design, the original super design as it loaded. Okay, and we've also got a rotation. So if I want to rotate this 25 degrees, I can either type in 25 or I can use the arrows there. Move them up and down. Okay. If you are a visual person, we can use those controls on the corner. Maybe I think that cupcake needs to be the other direction. So I'm going to use that left-hand arrow to just mirror that image. And then on the right-hand side, we have that rotation control. Okay. And as I hover over that, and that just lets me rotate. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to undo this and undo until I'm back to center and back to my original size. Now I'm going to go ahead and right click again over the same design. And if I go to style, that lets me change from color to line without changing anything else. I didn't actually have to go back earlier. So there's always more than one way within the software to do something. And they've made it easier and easier over the years to be able to make a change without having to start over from scratch. So that's really, really helpful. So if I'm happy with this as it came, I'm going to go ahead and leave it be. I'm going to right click. And then I'm going to go ahead and fix it as stitches. And so you'll watch when I fix as stitches, my green handles have turned white and this item is no longer malleable. It's no longer a big ball of dough. I can still resize it. But honestly, if you're working with super designs, lettering, frames, and borders, you are better off going back to the original and resizing the original piece and then fixing it as stitches. Okay, and that's kind of what's different about all of these than just existing designs. So we're going to go ahead and save this if we want. Now that's up to you whether you want to or not, but if I go to File and then Save or Save As, this will save it as, in either case, a VP4 file. I'm going to cancel that. I go to File and then Export. This is where I can change my file format to something other than VP4. VP4s can be read by both of the Husqvarna Viking designer epics, the designer icon, the forthcoming new designer icon 2, and I don't know, Karen, do you know? You probably don't even know. There is a new designer Ruby, the designer Ruby 90. I am not sure. I have one. Haven't opened the box yet, but it arrived today. So,
Hi.
do you know?
I don't know, but I know the Ruby's going to be Wi-Fi connected.
So I would guess that it's a VP4.
So it's a pretty good assumption. It's not fact yet, as far as I know, but yeah, I would expect it to.
Yep. Question?
Is the fix as stitches the same as saving a design?
No, fixing and saving are two different things. I'm going to undo this. So I could save this here. So just for giggles, I'm going to do a save as. I'm going to put this on my desktop. I'm going to leave it as untitled. So do you see how we still have the green handles? Now, if I go up to insert a design, here's my untitled with my green handles. They both have green handles. It's the exact same design, but it's still malleable. Once I go and export a file and convert it into any other format, it will fix it at that point automatically. I'm hoping that explained that. So I do recommend, even if you don't have a machine that reads a VP4 file, I recommend saving things as VP4 because you may stitch it out and be like, oh, I wish that was a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller or rotated to the right a little bit. And if you have the VP4 file, it is a whole lot easier to make those modifications because a lot of the pieces are still malleable. We haven't baked that dough yet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete this one because we only need one birthday. Has anybody else had a birthday in the last week? We might need more than one.
You've actually celebrated several days.
I've celebrated several days, yes. There's been birthday shenanigans happening around here for almost 2 weeks now. But I hear you only turned 50 once. Shh, don't tell people I admitted to that. Waiting for Alice to make a noise from the other room. Okay, so if I've made all those changes, oh, no, wait, Bunny said, save it as a VP4. We can go ahead and undo until we get our green handles back. And I can also copy, so I can right click and copy this. And when I copy it, it moves it over to the clipboard in the bottom right-hand corner. So you can always see what's on your clipboard. And then I can right click and paste it. And again, that pasted piece retains those green handles. So it's really a nice upgrade from what we had before, because it used to be, if I didn't get it quite right, I'd have to start over. They've made things a lot easier to make changes to.
And all the machines you just listed off, they will read a VP4.
Yep, a designer, a Husqvarna Viking designer epic, a Husqvarna Viking designer epic 2, a Husqvarna Viking Ruby 90, we think. Did the Brilliance read a VP4, Karen? You're on mute.
Yes.
Okay, then the Ruby will as well. The Husqvarna Viking designer Brilliance, the FAF Creative Icon, and the forthcoming FAF Creative Icon 2 will all read a VP4 file. But don't fret if you have a machine that does not read a VP4 file. Now, if you have a Designer Ruby, I'm going to suggest you go look at the new one. I haven't looked at mine yet. I've seen pictures though. So we've got all of this malleable stuff. Well, what else is malleable in our software? I can go into my lettering tab. My lettering is also malleable. I mentioned earlier my frames. My computer is not liking all this, and my borders. But let's play with lettering a little bit. I know we've done this before, but we're going to do it a little bit more. So in our lettering, I can scroll through my individual letters using my up arrow and down arrow. And believe me, I used to do this in Microsoft products and it took forever. And then Microsoft got smart and they figured out how to show us all of our fonts at once. So if I click on this drop down arrow, I get everything. Same thing applies when we talked about the super designs. If you have items that are grayed out, that means that your software only has limited capability, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I have Ultra, so I have all of my lettering in color. So we're going to go ahead and find a specific font, and our instructions tell us to find our kids font, which is 10 to 50 millimeters, and it's in the children category. So you see every sort of line break, there's actually a category. So, and they're alphabetized. So monograms, modern. I'm trying to not make you guys seasick. So I'm going to scroll up and up. I'm going to quickly just stop here on the floral for a second. If you like the lettering in Acorn, but you don't like all that other stuff, you don't have to stitch all the other stuff. You can just use the lettering that's in here. Same for Renaissance and even Trellis and Ivy. They are completely separate components, but I digress. So we're going to go ahead and scroll up to children, and I want to get kids. So I'm going to go ahead and select my kids font. Now your fonts come with a size range. Trust that the people who digitize these fonts, not just once, but twice, because in one of our more recent versions of software, they redigitized every single letter in every single font. And the sizing that they're giving you here is telling you that they're guaranteeing you that this font will function appropriately within this size range. Now, if you are bound and determined to stitch out your kids' font in, 3 millimeter font, you go for it. But when it doesn't look right, we told you so. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. So the software really, and you'll see if I go back to this, that different fonts have different size recommendations. So if you need a little font or you need a really big font, do look at those sizes before you pick one. Okay, and then we're going to skip over Font Manager. What I will tell you is that if you purchase the lesson, there's about 6 pages on Font Manager and the things within that. If that is something that you would like us to do a class on, it's kind of a bonus piece. We can, Karen and I talked about that earlier before we opened the Zoom room. So if we did that, that would definitely be it would be a minimally paid class, but it would be a paid class. But if you are someone who does well independently, it is covered in the lesson, in the printout. So once we have our letter box here, we're going to go ahead and say happy birthday, but we're going to start with happy. So we're going to type in happy. To the right, we have our size. And again, I could change to a 1 inch and then hit enter. And that's 25 millimeters. Okay. To the right, there is gap. Now that's kind of the spacing between the letters. And then I've got some height and width proportion. I'm going to go ahead and leave those where they default. And next are all these little blue shapes. These are called envelope shapes. really lettering shapes, but they call them envelope shapes. And you may not have all of these shapes as an option. You may see some of them are grayed out. And what I want to do is go ahead and pick circle clockwise because I want to put happy up above my candle. Now, I want you to watch what I'm about to do. Okay. I have no square around my single serving birthday cake. I have no selection box. So I'm going to go ahead and take this circle clockwise. I'm going to skip over all these things for the moment, and I'm going to apply that. And it actually applied really close to the candle. That's actually pretty good, but I'm going to undo because what I want to show you is in our software, we have something called Snap To. If I have a selection box before I bring my lettering in and I apply this again, it applied in almost the same space, but do you see how that's, I'm going to hit the tab button on my keyboard. So do you see where those 4 corners are? And mostly I want you to look at the top 2 green corners. And I'm going to tab and look at where that circle is. So don't look at the green square at the top now, but just look at where the circle is. Look at where those corners are. Look at where the circle is. So what the Snap To does is it snaps it, bam, to the line, or it snaps the line to the corners so that nothing is sort of out of bounds. Now, I can change this. If I'm not happy with where it snapped, no worries. So I can go ahead and let it snap. I'm going to go back up here to the top, and I'm going to go real quickly to the things I jumped over before. My connection. Do I want to jump stitch trim, or do I want to do a running stitch? I did overhear this in the earlier questions. Sometimes embroidery with jump stitch trim looks really yucky on the back, and that's because, especially with lettering, that's because every time it takes a stitch to tie off, it ties a little knot and it cuts. And when the machine moves to the next location, that piece of thread from where it cut to the next location then gets pulled underneath. There are not little gnomes inside your machine that cut it on either side and take it out to the trash can. What that is that piece then gets caught up in the stitching at the beginning of the next, whatever, in this case, letter. The upside to that process is that my lettering is more secure because it gets tied off, and as that little tail gets kind of caught up in the stitching, it's much less likely to become unraveled. The downside to that is that it can look really, really ugly. It can look really hairy and messy, and if you have long jumps, sometimes they don't pull to the back as well. You have to make a decision. If I am embroidering on anything with a nap, a fleece, a terry cloth, anything that's got some lift to it, I like to go to the running stitch connection because what it does is it just puts a little run stitch in between my letters. And on anything with a nap, it's going to basically hide that. Those little run stitches are going to fall down into the nap, and I'm not going to see them, and I'm not going to worry about how bad it looks on the back. If you need it to be super clean and no stitches in between, go ahead and leave it on trim. And you may have to make a decision after a test stitch, because we all do test stitches all the time, right? Absolutely. We test stitch what we're doing on the fabric and the stabilizer and the thread. None of us do. Let's be real. But if it's absolutely got to be there overnight, you may want to. If it's got to be perfect, you may want to test stitch it. And if you put trim on, you can always turn your jump stitch trim off. The difference is if I leave those jumps in place between my letters and I don't want to have to go back and cut them, it's going to be, in most cases, one very long, and very long is relative to the spacing, but it's going to be one jump stitch. Whereas with the running stitch, it's going to be a series of smaller stitches. And if you're actually digitizing lettering or you're digitizing a phrase, you can actually digitize these running stitches in what Walter Floriani called a hammer stitch, which was super short stitches. And when you do these super tiny stitches, they actually kind of hammer into the fabric. And you see them even less and less. Embroidery is supposed to loft, but if you make really short stitches, it just kind of sinks into the fabric. So it's up to you on that connection, which way you want it to go. Okay. Color sort, I can leave that on or off. The difference is if I don't color sort this, I have 5 letters that are going to be potentially 5 different colors. Now that's great if I wanted to put in, say, USA and make them red, white, and blue, or I wanted to put in rainbow and make it R-A-I-N-B-O-W. Okay, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I just did that on my fingers. You guys can't see, but Barbie's laughing. I was like, is rainbow actually 7 letters? It is. So that would be one of those times where I might want to change the colors. That's entirely up to you. I've done words where I've changed and sort of ombre the words. So they went from a light to a dark, or from a light to, or a dark to a light. So we get to kind of play with those. Either way is fine. Okay. And my lettering, you'll see, still has this green arrow, green box. So it's still a malleable piece. So if I didn't like where that snapped to, no problem. My lettering size is set, and I can go ahead and click on that green square, and I can drag that in or drag that out. Now what you'll notice is as I'm doing that, I can actually rotate around at the same time. So I can change the center point of my lettering. I'm going to undo. Remember those 2 buttons we talked about earlier, the control button? If I touch and hold the control button and I click on this, all I get is my rotation. So I can change where happy is. And if I shift, nope, didn't do what I wanted it to. Let me see if control shift. Nope, okay. So I've got to play with my circle first. But I can lock that circle if I need to change my positioning of my lettering on the circle. That makes sense to everybody? So I know it's a lot, and I'm hoping that most of you are following along. But if you don't, that's okay. It just means that you're going to have to go back and read this all again later. Now, I'm going to jump back up here and talk about alignments over here to the right. So this is basically an alignment like a paragraph. If I want to left align things, center them, right align things, we don't have multiple lines of text tonight. So we're not going to worry about that. Okay. I still have that same what I did earlier. Right click on my happy. And you see the same controls that we had before. Properties, set and column. Okay, not quite as many because I don't have quite as many options, but let's go to properties for our happy. Here's my font. There's my lettering. Here's my size, my percentage, my color sort, my shape, my alignment, all those same controls, but maybe it wasn't the font that I wanted. So I don't, again, have to start over. I can go ahead and pick a different font. And if you would like to pick a different font, by all means, pick a different font. I just want you to be sure and have something that has, 25 fits within the size range. Do not spend all night picking a different font because we're going to keep going. I'm not going to make any changes, so I'm going to go ahead and say cancel. Cancel just ensures that if I clicked on something, it didn't take. If I was sure I didn't click on anything, okay would be a perfectly acceptable answer. And now we're going to go ahead and want to change something on the other design. Now, if you've been with software a long time, it used to be that I can't get to the cupcake. And I will tell you this changed, I think in 4D software. Might have been 5. It wasn't in 3D. So to get to my cupcake, I used to have to take this happy and I had to move it off to the side so I could get back to my cupcake. We don't have to do that, and we haven't had to do that for a couple generations. So forgive me if you are familiar with this, but some people are not still, and it surprises me. If I just touch the tab button on my keyboard, it basically steps through my embroidery designs. So I can tab to my lettering, tab to my cupcake. If I added maybe birthday to the bottom with this circle clockwise, but this is the under circle, I could tab to that as well. Okay, so we've got the ability to, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to add birthday, circle under, and because I still have my cake selected, I'm going to apply, and there's my birthday. And now I can tab, and you'll notice that this one did not have color sort on, so I have all of these separate letters. And so when people say, why does my machine stop for every single letter? This is why. Okay. So tab to my single serving cake, tab to my happy, tab to my birthday. Now, how do I tell the difference? Well, one has color sort on and one doesn't, but I also can see where my green control handle is. This gets to be really helpful when you have multiple designs on screen. And I don't know about you guys, but I have done this and had so many designs on screen that it made me really kind of kooky crazy. And getting through them was much harder. So now I want this to be easier. I'm going to go ahead and undo until my lettering goes away completely. And you remember I made a number of changes, so I have to undo through all those changes. I'm going to make sure that my cupcake is selected. And this time I'm going to type happy, and then the control key and the enter button on my keyboard allow me to get 2 lines of text. And that's where this alignment comes into play. Now for what we're going to do, I want you to go ahead and leave it on center. Okay. And I just want you to watch for a minute. So don't follow along with this one. Horizontal block. If I horizontal block, I'm going to color sort, and I'm going to left align. Here's my happy birthday. It's left aligned, and it's snapped to the bottom of the cupcake. I'm going to undo that. Happy birthday. I'm just going to pick a shape. You may or may not have the shape. That's why I said just kind of, I'm going to right align and apply. And now I get this wavy. And you know what happened there? I didn't have my cupcake selected. There we go. And it snapped to the bottom. Although I didn't think it was terrible over top of them. Okay. And with my wavy, I can play with all of these different positions within this wavy line. And that is a trippy, trippy birthday. So instead of undoing, I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete that one, because that was a little much to look at even for me. But let's happy birthday. And I want my circle, I want my full circle. I don't want them in 2 different pieces, because then if I have to adjust them, I have to adjust them individually. And some of us used to have to do this with older software because we didn't have a full circle. My control and enter on my keyboard created that split in my text. And that's how the software knows which piece goes on top and which piece goes on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and center these. I'm going to leave my running stitch on, my color sort on, and apply. Now, before I hit apply, I want to double check and make sure that my cupcake is selected. Apply. And now my positioning is snapped right to this. If you'd like, you can go ahead and play with the positioning on these. Again, I'm holding the control button down on my keyboard. Let's going to leave the circle in place, and I'm going to bring my happy a little to the right, my birthday a little to the left, because I generally see the world with a little bit of a head tilt anyway. So that works really well. Now you can be obsessive here. I could want them to be evenly spaced within my quadrants. I could want the vertical of my B to be vertical or horizontal on the same horizontal plane. That is entirely up to you. You guys can be as obsessive about that as you want to. But let's go ahead and say, okay, this is where I like it. I'm pretty good here. And we're going to go home. Now I went to the ribbon, top toolbar ribbon, went home. And once I'm here, I can move these around on screen. You'll notice that the green icons, those malleable toolbars, are still there. At one of the generations of software, I don't know if it was 6 or Premiere Plus, the first version, but when you left the lettering screen or you left the frame screen, this malleability went away. We now have this unfixed font, unfixed design, so that I can still play with it, but still make more changes. So I want to go ahead and move them, but I want to be sure and select all of them. Now I can do that one of two ways. I can either box select. And by box select, I'm going to go ahead and get this little icon that you see here. I'm going to left click somewhere to the upper left of the design. I'm going to drag a box down and around them. And you'll see that it highlights everything. I get this outer line, I get the circle, I can see my rectangle in here. They're just grayed out. Okay. I can just as easily select all and get that same setting. And if I go back to box select, I can freehand select. Freehand select is left mouse clicking and then drawing. This works really well if you're someone who works with a tablet. I'm not always as great with the mouse, so sometimes I cut things off. My end result is the same for all of them. If you are not handy with the mouse, this last one, freehand point select, allows me to left click and set a point, and left click and set a point, and left click and set a point, and continue and continue and continue until everything is selected, and then right click. Now somebody said to me, well, why do you want, what's the difference? And the difference is sometimes I have multiple things and I'm like, oh, you know what? Should have made changes to that cupcake in the middle. Right now I can just grab it. But there are times where this design may be fixed and I may need to make some changes to something in between. And so that's a great way for me to freehand point select and get around a piece. This happens more in the modify tab or the modify component of the software, but the tools are there. And so I like to point them out when we see them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and undo all that. And I want to select all. Now, why do I want to select all? Because I want to move them. They're in the center. And, you know, it's like getting into my bed where the dog is laying in the center of the bed. And seriously, my bed looked like this last night. I was in the little sliver on the left and the dogs were in the center and there was nothing on the right. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and move that to the right. I can do that a couple of ways. I can left click and drag. If you are working with a touch screen, you can use your touch options. I'm going to undo, put it back to the center and reselect all. I use the arrow buttons on my keyboard a lot. This feature is called nudge, and it really is helpful when I'm trying to fine tune something or position something really precisely. So I'm just going to use my right arrow, and you'll see it moves much more slowly, but that really can be helpful if I want to get it just so. So I want that left-hand edge of my cupcake to be just past my gray line, my centering line. Oh, looks like I got it about there. So I'm okay with the mouse, not always great with it. The arrow buttons really are helpful. It makes my life much, much easier. And let's go ahead and add some more. So we can insert designs if we have, if you're on a PC, you can use on some PCs the Windows button. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to go ahead and go up here to Insert. And I want to browse to something that was preloaded in my software. So I'm looking for Documents. And again, this is Windows specific. We're going to our Premiere Plus 2. And I did warn you guys before, there's all kinds of stuff on my computer. Under Premiere Plus 2, we have our Samples folder. Under Samples, we have Premiere Plus 2 EMB. Under that, we have Pictures and Stitch Files. We want to go into the Stitch 2 folder and down to Toys. Is everybody following along with me? And if I change these in here to icons, I can see the preview of what they are. Okay, so just like we talked about in the first class, if I just have lists, I just see the names. If I have details, I get more information. But if I want to see what I'm looking at, I want to go to my icons. Oh, look at the rocket. Sorry, I just got some rocket fabric into the store. We also got some really cute teddy bear fleecy stuff into the store. So what do we do for birthdays? What do we have floating around in here? A whole bunch of. Let's add some balloons. So I can either double left click on my balloons, or I can just highlight this design and then tell it to open. And here's my balloons. Well, they're a little out of proportion now, aren't they? So this is white corners, white control handles. This tells me that this design was already fixed in place. I can make these bigger or smaller. Remember what I talked about earlier are different options for changing the sizing. I'm going to go ahead and drag this kind of to the upper left-hand corner, because let's make this bigger. Before we get anywhere with this, I want to look at the number of stitches, 928. Here's my sizing. I want to turn my resize function on. And you see my control handles go blue. So that tells me that I'm in active resize. An active resize functionality will recalculate my stitch points for me. So I'm going to come to the bottom right-hand corner because I drug to the upper left. I'm going to come to the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to press and hold the control button on my keyboard, and I'm going to drag this down until I am happy with the size. Now, that's a lot of cake in relation to the size of my balloons, but hey, it is what it is. And when I let go, I can go over and look to the right-hand side and see that I now have 7,702 stitches. So I just visually looked at kind of the grids on my screen. Is entirely up to you, and maybe I need these to be at a little bit of an angle, so I can go ahead and rotate those balloons into my happy birthday. Yes, there are questions. Okay, Karen did leave us, so I know that has not been feeling well. So she did say she may leave early. So now I've got my happy birthday with my balloons and my cake. And if I want to go ahead and select everything, if this is exactly how I want it, I'm super happy. I can go ahead and combine it. I can combine all, but you notice under combine, I had a fix as stitches option. So I'm going to undo. Okay. I'm going to redo. There we go. I'm going to select all. I go back to combine, fix as stitches. So once I combine these will be fixed. If I save this, I have to keep moving you guys around. You're on my screen. If I save as, I'm going to save this to my desktop. I'm going to replace the previous untitled file that was there. And now I still have all of these different control handles. And I'm using my tab button on my keyboard to tab through the different pieces. But if I insert and go back to my desktop, again, I'm in a different folder than I was earlier, so I need to tell it again. Icons. Here's all of those pieces. I'm going to open that. Maybe.
Okay, while that thing is thinking,
Yeah, well, it's thinking.
so some people are able to open the samples.
Mhm.
They see the folder, and click on it, but they the picture doesn't come up with anything in the picture.
So I'd need to know which version of software you have. And we're going to do a little bit of backup here. And I don't know why. Oh, you know why it didn't open? Because I didn't select it. It was the only one there. So I was like, well, of course you know it's the only one. Nope. It's like kids. You have to tell them sometimes. So I have to select that and then open. There we go. And it did load a whole second series on top of the first one. I'm going to make sure I delete them so I don't stitch it twice. Okay. But I can tab back through and look. 2 sets of balloons. Don't need 2 sets of balloons. Let's delete that. Tab. Cupcakes. Well, we can all use 2 cupcakes. Delete that. Here's my happy birthday. Move that over. Don't need 2 of those. But what I want you to see is, again, reinforcing that save functionality will save it in the VP4 format, but so that I can still go back and make some changes. Maybe the happy birthday was a little too crooked for my liking. I'm going to go ahead and make changes to that.
Okay, so she has the Air Plus 2 extra.
Okay. It's possible that extra doesn't have all of the samples. But if I don't have those samples there, I can get to it another way. Sort of. And get to something similar. So first thing I need to do is select none. Come on, you, ungroup. Okay, so what I'm going to do is freehand point select. And I'm going to get rid of my balloons. Is Alice leaving too?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Alice teaches our Kimmerbell, and she was here today. Oh, booger's not fairy. That's my bad word. It's going to undo a whole bunch of times until I can get my balloons to go away.
And you did not adjust the density as you changed the size.
With the resize on, it automatically changed the sizing and kept the density as close as it could. So I'm pretty sure I saw over here in my super design page some other balloons. So here's my other balloons. I can make those bigger or smaller. So there are some ways around that. Now I'm going to change my share for just a second, and this is not in the tutorial, but I want to go ahead and look. So give me a moment. We're going to minimize this. I'm going to bring configure back up. Oop, where'd we go? Where'd my share functionality go? Oh, there it goes. It's hiding from me. New share, configure. Can everybody see my configure now? Okay. So configure is a great way to check your installation. So in configure, if we check installation, and you don't have to follow along for this, But for my Premiere Plus 2 embroidery system, I want to check that. And this is where my samples are. And so I would want you to check and make sure that your samples, because sometimes not everything loads. And I just off the top of my head, Premiere Plus 2 was introduced so long ago that I honestly can't remember, but I can find out. So if you come up and there is a red or a yellow here, if I don't have a green check mark, that means that one of two things is happening. Either you need to do a smart update. Oh wait, did you guys see that? I bet it didn't show because it's a different share. Yep, it's a different share. Where are you? Oh, this one. Okay, here. Premiere Plus 2 installation check. If I check this, I have all greens. So if you don't have all greens for some reason, actually it could be one of three things. One could be that for some reason it didn't install. I'm going to close that. My screen sharing stopped altogether. Of course it did. I'm going to go back to configure. You can see configure again. Okay, so this is where we want to do potentially a smart update. I'm not going to do it now, and please don't do it because you'll be tied up for a while. But I'd want you to check your smart update. If your smart update does not load the samples, then I would recommend that you double check with your dealer. You could send me an email, but I'll be really honest. I don't know that I'll get back to you right away. Or you could call software support and just say, hey, are all the samples supposed to be included with my Premiere Plus 2 embroidery, Premiere Plus 2 extra? They can answer that a whole lot faster than I can. The other thing that can and does occasionally happen is people move things around on their computers because I want all of my whatevers to be in one folder. Here's what I have to say about that in particular. Don't. If it's in your Premiere Plus 2 file under Documents, leave it where it is. The only thing that I play with in there is, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to change my share here. I wish that there was somebody knows of a way to make this just follow me. That would be lovely, but it doesn't. So I'm going to go back into okay. This computer, Documents. Okay, you see I have 5D on here. I probably have 6D on here somewhere too. So the system automatically loads Premiere Plus 2 here. Leave it be where it is. The only thing that I move in and out of this is anything that I've put in my Designs folder. And I have no idea what this is. I have to be really honest. So let's look and see what this is. Actually, maybe I shouldn't do this on screen. Oh, it's a VF3. So I think it's a font folder. Yep. That looks to me like it's a font. So it wouldn't even do me any good. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Okay, but this is the only thing within this Premiere Plus 2 folder under Documents that I move anything in or out of is the My Designs folder. And I personally don't keep designs here. So the software automatically defaults to save things in My Designs. I have a folder called Embroidery. Now this is not my primary computer, so this doesn't have everything, but this is where I put everything. Documents, Embroidery. For me, I sort within this folder then by brand. I think you saw that in the past. Okay, so I just want to be clear about that. So it could be, it's not installed. It could be that it didn't come with your software. It could be that something got moved. Just, you have to check on those. And feel free to get back to me and I will try and answer that as best I can.
Will you be, that's the snap to again, using that for everything.
We can do snap 2 again. Absolutely. I just want to make sure that I've covered all of this. I want to see where I was supposed to be in this instruction. So I'm going to close this. I know I stopped a screen share. Let's go back to my software. I am going to go ahead, since we didn't have those, I'm going back to Super Design, selecting my balloons. I'm going to change the size because this is a pretty big hoop. So I'm going to change it to 7-inch and apply my 7-inch balloons down below. Going to rotate those so that they fit within my hoop. That was kind of close there, wasn't it? Okay. Now I'm going to go back home, select all, because I want a box around all of this. I'm also going to go to my alignment and center it. I have not combined them, and I have not fixed any of the stitches yet. But being able to kind of grab them, select them all together, I also could have gone into my group and ungroup functionality, which is probably what I should have done earlier. And let's add a little bit more to this. Let's add a frame. So we go to the Frames tab. Again, on the left-hand side, we can drop down. I'm going to quickly show you corners, or literally corners, 4 corners. Frames are all the way around. Side pieces are side pieces. Side pieces tend to be used mostly with monograms. And I'm going to show you kind of all of the options really quickly. So again, depending upon which level of software you have, you may have more or less of these. I had a fun piece that I did years ago with some of these. Here's all our frames. If Barbie reminds me and we have time, I might show you those. So I will tell you, I have played with these frames and made luggage tags out of these applique shields at the top. That's a lot of fun. Trying not to make you guys seasick with doing this. Okay, so I've got a lot more frames than I had corners. Okay. Side pieces, there aren't as many. And then below frames is flourishes. So what's a flourish? Well, a flourish is a thing. It's a scroll or a... I have taken flourishes and rotated them 90 degrees and used them as side pieces. I've also taken flourishes and copied them and pasted them and duplicated them above and below something. It's not always with lettering. I've also taken flourishes and combined them to create border designs. So don't be limited by the titles that they give these things. But I really want a frame. And I want one of the frames, pick one. I went so big with this, I'm actually going to pick a pretty simple frame. So I don't want to deal with applique. I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to go with just an Art Deco frame. I know that this is horizontal. Whoops, I lost my select all. So I'm going to go back home, select all. And I'm going to group them this time so that now I've got one big piece. Frames, Art Deco. My margin, how far outside of my piece do I want this to be? I don't have a lot of space here. So I'm going to make my margin pretty small, 1 millimeter. And then if I look to the right, size options. Here's my size, height and width percentage. I'm going to cancel that. Stitch type. And you'll see I've got a drop down arrow. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got satin line. But how big of a satin do I want it to be? So I can control things even more than I could before. I can play with my density here. If it's a frame that has a start and an end point, I can actually angle those. So these are things that we see on a lot of the machines. I'm just going to make it a little skinny. So I'm going to make it a 2.5 millimeter satin border because I'm hoping that'll fit. And then I'm going to say apply. And that was not the frame that I selected. But we've got a frame. It's not the frame that I selected though. That's super weird. Okay. So in the interest of getting something closer to what I wanted, I'm going to go just down to classical. Pick a rectangle, apply that one. There we go. That's more of what I had in mind. So I could embroider this whole thing out. I could cut this out, fix it to a card. This is pretty big, so my card probably needs to be a manila envelope at this point. But I could then, cut it out and go ahead and apply it to something and create a completely unique birthday card. And this is totally not on topic, but I have to say, I got some very cool birthday cards. But good Lord, people, do you know how expensive those things are these days? Make your own birthday cards. I got birthday cards that were like $9 and $10. Well, I appreciate it. I really do. That's a lot of money to spend on a piece of paper for. Go to the dollar store and buy me birthday cards, people. We're good. Okay. Any questions about that so far? I just want to make sure I'm covering all of the things I want you to be able to get.
Okay, so it looks like your balloon is on top of the frame.
They're just touching, but let's look closer. Hang on. Let's move you guys out of the way. So at the very bottom right-hand portion of your screen, below the clipboard, there is this little teeny tiny, way too small icon. But if I hover over it, I can see what it's actually called. It's called Zoom to Rectangle. I'm going to left click on that, and that's going to activate that control. And you see now how I've got the magnifying glass? And I'm going to zoom in. And yeah, it is. But I don't know what happens when I go home. Oh, it still is on top. Well, let's look at Design Player and see. And I will show you just while we're here. I made this so big. Okay, so some of this color variation is a gradient, but you see how I got some gapping in here in my highlight? So there are, even with some of the built-ins, there are some sort of limitations to the super designs. What I would say is this would be a great place to maybe put some Mylar in, and then it would hide all that. But let's go to Design Player. Now I'm going to go back to these little tiny controls at the bottom and go to Zoom to Fit so I can see the whole thing. And I go into the Design Player. And this will let me see my design stitch in real time. Well, not in real time, but stitch. Yep, it did the border first. Even though I loaded it last, it did the border first. You've got me on that one. Normally, things would load in the order in which they were loaded to the screen. Because I didn't think that was an applique. That would have been the only reason that it should have done that first. But if I don't like it in that order, I can do that in the Modify tab. Modify is available for embroidery extra and ultra only. Or I could go ahead and select certain pieces if I had before I did all this. So I'm going to undo and undo and undo. And we do that. So, okay. If I had copied all of this onto my clipboard, And then I redo and redo and redo and redo. And so now back on my home screen, I can ungroup and I can tab through everything. And I can delete this.
Because which of the options said how close our border was to our design?
The margin.
So if you made that larger,
We could have made it bigger and it would have been outside. But what actually surprised me about that was that it put the balloon on top and it didn't put the frame on the other. So yeah, the frame's still going to be there on the base. There are ways around that. But if I were that close, I would actually prefer my balloon stitch on top of my frame personally. If I were making it as a card. Now, if I wanted it to look like it was more within a window, I would want it to flip around the other way. Did that make sense? I'm not sure that did, but you know. And now I have this down on my keyboard. I'm still going to paste it back where it was. It's still going to be on top. So we do have the ability to go in and make a few changes here. So if I come in and I have ungrouped these now, this is still malleable handles. So I could make that smaller if I wanted. I'm going to use my control button and touch on my keyboard and change my size and move it around a little bit. But again, with super designs, you will get a better result if you actually go back to the super design page and reload it. Because it might accommodate for some of that gapping that I saw there. Okay, we can go ahead and save these if we'd like. And if we don't, there is nothing stopping you from not saving them. And we are, I think, are we ahead of schedule? Well, we are a little ahead of schedule. Okay. So here's the point where it's always fun. And I say to you, tell me what I showed you that confused the heck out of you. And let's bring you guys back up. If you would like to unmute, you can do so. I have not been looking at the chat all day, all night, all whatever this is. I've been here since 9 o'clock this morning. So there we go. We're going to move you guys over to the right. We're going to move the controls down to the bottom. And let's see the chat that I haven't seen all night.
yeah, Donna may want to explain a little bit more. Maybe I'm not understanding what she's asking.
Okay. Creating a new design or modifying with super design. Want to add a circle. So you just want to add a circle. It doesn't necessarily have to be a frame. And Jan, I would save it no matter what I do. I'm always going to do a save or a save as. Just to leave it so it's malleable. So Deanna, you said Donna, and I thought that, but then I'm looking, it says Deanna. There's nothing to, so I'm just gonna, guys, I'm gonna go to a new, now I can open a new window and leave the old window open. I have no need to save this personally, so I'm just gonna go to new. It's gonna ask me if I want to save those changes. I'm gonna say no. So let's talk about kind of the pieces that are built in here. That is not what I wanted to do. Okay. Can you see the screen? It hasn't gone away?
I'm looking at the software, yes.
Okay, yay. So I'm just going to kind of go over some software pieces, period. Try and move that out of the screen. Okay. So our home page, we can kind of see now, if you have a lower level of software, you're going to see everything, but some things are just going to stay grayed out. It means that they're not active. Wizards, I don't know that we cover wizards in any of the classes. at all. But I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to show you the Endless Wizard. I am a huge fan of the Endless Hoops and the Endless Wizard. Encore repeats things. I'll show you that in a minute. It's probably in a future class, but you know, whatever. So in my super designs, I can scroll through these. Now, I will point out this child style 1, 2, and 3, and 4. This was an embroidery collection years ago. So here is, see this corner? I love this corner. I have done all kinds of things with this corner, so I'm just going to show you. So just because it's a frame or a border or a corner doesn't mean it has to be what the title is. If that makes sense to everybody, I'm hoping it does. So I did a whole software class. Barbie may even remember this. We did this when we were in the basement of the old store. And this was just forcing people outside of the box. So let's go ahead and apply this corner. Okay, now, I mean, it's a corner, right? I could use it with some monograms. I could do some fun stuff with it. This is just going to be me showing you guys some things. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to move my first corner to the left, my second corner here. And watch what happens when I mirror image that. Now I'm getting some things that look vastly different. Okay, that's super cool. I like the way it looks. I'm going to tell you that I did this longhand in the past. Here, I'm going to go ahead and come to my home page. I'm going to select both of them. I did that by hitting the control button on my keyboard and clicking on the other. I'm going to distribute horizontally. I'm going to align the center. Oh, that didn't work. Distribute horizontally. That didn't work either because it brought them all on top of each other. But now I've got a bigger group. Well, then I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to duplicate that larger group. I'm going to bring it down below. And I am going to mirror image those the other direction. And I'm going to bring these back together. Now you saw that zoom functionality I used earlier. So this little control in the bottom right hand corner, zoom to rectangle. I'm going to zoom in on the center. And here I can literally see the lines and I can use my nudge button. And I can nudge these little pieces around. I can nudge that to the right. And I can nudge that down till they just kiss. And I can nudge this to the right and bring it down using my keyboard. This is not in any lesson anywhere. But I have done this before because I really think this is nifty looking. And so in the center here, I now have something that starts to look like a piece of Celtic knotwork. And I'm going to go out to the full hoop, except that's a little wide. So let's zoom in on just this. So I have this piece that starts to look like Celtic knotwork. I think it's pretty cool. Maybe I don't want these pieces around the outside. Okay. If I have software with a modify option, I can go in and edit out the other pieces. So for those of you who don't have modify, I apologize. I'm going to go to modify. Now, once I go to modify, you notice it tells me it's going to lock it. All my green controls go away. Fine. Oh, wait, I only get one. I'm going to come back home. I'm going to select all. I'm going to combine them. And I'm going to color sort them because I don't need 4 greens. I'm going to go to the modify tab. Now, I showed you earlier about that freehand point select. Okay. Because if I try and get around all of this, I'm in deep trouble. I'm going to go to freehand point select and watch. I'm going to click and click and click and click. And I want to come right in between these little boogers. And I want to be sure that I am not grabbing any of that outside. So all I'm doing is left clicking as I go.
And when you brought up the mirror control, you right clicked.
The mirror?
Mhm.
No, mirror isn't, go back to that. Mirror isn't a left or right. Mirror is the little triangle on the top and the left of a design. Let's see how good I was with this. Okay, right click. I think I got it. And I'm going to select all that's visible. Whoops, that was wrong. Oh, boogers. I have to do it again. That's the only downside to that. I hit on the wrong thing, and it happens sometimes. Box select. Let's see if I can box select this. Why are we not doing what I want it to do? Box select. Zoom back in. I'm going to tell y'all right now, I do not box select this well. I've done it. It's going to grab some of the other pieces, but I'm going to show you what I do. And I apologize if you just have embroidery. This is not going to work as well as we would like it to. So I like this piece. I want to get rid of the stuff around it. I do that by removing it, and I remove it by cutting it out of the middle. So now it's on my clipboard. I select everything that's left, select all that's visible, and delete that. And then I paste this back to here. And what you'll see is I got a couple of extra funny little stitches around the sides. Okay. So if I don't want these little individual stitches, I can zoom in obsessively and box select them again, or I'm just going to freehand point select, and I'm going to come around these guys. And I'm going to go ahead and right click and delete those. Go out, zoom back in. I can also go to select stitches, and I can select each individual stitch and delete them one by one. And I have literally done this in the past, but it takes a really long time. But if you want to get rid of just a couple of stray stitches, this is the way to do that. It's, again, going to take way too long, and I'm impatient. Okay. Oh, but I missed one. Just one over there. Oh, maybe two. Might even be three. Likes to make a liar out of me. Okay, I'm going to leave this where it is because I want to show you guys. So when we talk about, you know, the elements that are in there, it doesn't have to be, I can take a round frame. There's nothing that says that it has to be a frame. I can just go ahead and pick this. You don't want that selected. I just apply a circle, and I can set the size. Now I'm going to delete that. So I want a circle. Okay. Apply it. It's not the size I want it to be. Go to my properties and change it. I want it to be a 45 millimeter circle. Okay, there's my 45 millimeter circle. Hang on just a second. I will be right back. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We had kind of a weird noise outside, and it's it's just the two of us here. So we were checking on that. Apologies. Okay. So Barbie, will you double check the chat? Okay. And so here's our mirror. Every so often, you know, a weird noise. Circle doesn't mirror very well. I apologize.
Yeah, and she found it.
Let's do an oval. And an oval doesn't work either. I'm having trouble here. Okay. Let's go with the heart. Okay. We've got all of them. Wait. I don't have mirror here, but if I go back home, right click, fix the stitches, ungroup those. Okay, there's my triangles up and down. Left and right does not work on any of these shapes. I'm going to delete these guys. So I said I was going to show you the wizards. So let's talk about Encore first. So Encore is like repeat it. Okay, well, how do I want to repeat it? I want to repeat it in a straight line. Do I want to repeat it in a circle? I have to have a design selected. And then I can go ahead and pick how I want it to go. A straight line, do I want it to repeat in a wavy line? How many repeats do I want? Preview it. Well, that's kind of nifty looking. Now watch this one, okay? If I like that, I'm going to apply it. Now I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees this way. Whoop. Maybe. You guys are in my way. Your pictures are right on top of me. Okay. Come here, you. Undo. There we go. Gonna rotate, rotate. So I've got pretty much a vertical line. And now let's go ahead and repeat that in a straight line. Home. Ungroup. Before I do that, I'm going to combine. I'm going to go back to Encore. Straight line, 6, preview. Okay, and now I can go ahead and squish it in a little, which I didn't do the first time. But I can make my own, you know, embroidered fabric. If I wanted to do maybe a purse with some textured fabric. And I can just keep playing with these controls over and over and over. If I'm happy with that, I'm going to say apply, come back home. That's pretty nifty looking. And it started out as a, what was it? A border? A frame. Started out as a frame. Corner. Started out as a corner. And I'm going to undo and undo and undo and undo and undo a little more because I want to go back to 1. Now, that was a great way to get repetition of something within a screen. If I have an endless hoop, of which there are now 3, you see the endless hoop does something very similar, but there are some special things here. These green and red marks allow me to continually line this piece up so that I can use the endless hoop or a magnetic hoop and constantly make sure that each piece continues to connect to the previous piece. So there's a pretty neat way to do that. And if I look at, I'm going to go back to the modify tab so you can see. Yes, I see you. You have to restrict the group. Okay. I'm going to restrict the group. And we're going to modify. And do you see this line here on the left-hand side? It barely looks like anything, but it's actually part of the stitching for my alignment. So see this funny little thing? This actually just stitches a stitch and then it jumps to the other stitch. But that helps me line everything up. So if I go back home, I'm going to combine all of those and color sort it So you see that gray, and then there's the green. Watch what happens in modify. If I turn the green off, there's the gray. And if I scroll to the right, there's the gray again. And they're designed to like, now they don't snap manually. They're designed so that you can line that design up over and over and over and over and over again. And so for a visual on that, I'm going to change the hoop to something that doesn't actually exist. But I'm going to make it 400 millimeters just for giggles. So now I've got this long piece and I can duplicate it. And see, with the endless hoop, you can just keep lining those up over and over and over again. I didn't get that quite close enough. And that happens when you use the endless hoop too. But if I step back from that, other than the fact that I know that's in the center, I wouldn't know that that alignment was in the center. Anyway, so we veered off topic, but based on the circle is a circle conversation, we got there. I feel like a dumb. Of course, a frame is a circle or a square. You're perfectly fine. And honestly, here's the thing about when you guys ask those questions and you feel like it's a stupid question, it's really not. So a little bit of background. My mother raised me and she used to say the only stupid question is the one that you don't ask, which I absolutely believe in. And then I worked for somebody for 15 years who would say to me, well, that's a stupid question. Well, no, it's not. I'm either asking it because it's amusing to ask it, because sometimes I ask questions just to be sort of bothersome. Let's be honest. If you don't know me, now you do know a little bit more. But sometimes I ask things because I really don't know. And sometimes I'm just having a moment of like, oh, well, yeah, but my brain wasn't, connecting the dots. And we all think differently. And so that's why having those quick reference guides is really helpful. Having the class, shown to you is helpful. Having the class handouts as an option is helpful to some people. Having some videos and being able to watch is helpful. So, it's having access to all of those different tools. Hey, if you guys, learned one thing, and that one thing might be, I am never going to that woman's shop, that's okay too. Beth hasn't been here yet. You can unmute.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
No, it's terrible.
Someday.
Oh, how am I clicking and zooming in on Marion? I thought I explained that, but clearly I didn't explain it well. So let's bring up a design. Okay, here's my design. So if I need to zoom in on that, see in the bottom right-hand corner down here, there are some little tiny, way too tiny. I don't know who designed these little tiny controls. There is no reason these things couldn't be a little bit bigger. But if I hover over this one, zoom to rectangle. So if I click on that, that control becomes active. And then see how I have my little magnifying glass? And then when I get up here, I left click, I hold the left mouse button down and I drag. If you are not really good with the mouse. And then to go back to full screen, I go to this little plus sign, zoom to fit. Okay. If you are not really good with the mouse, you have trouble moving the mouse and left clicking at the same time, and or, have an inability to do so. If I turn that control on and I come up here and I hit the control button on my keyboard, nope, I still have to left click and drag. There used to be a way around it. But I can zoom in. And so to the right of that, I have percentages. So if I click on this little drop down, okay, I can go to 400% zoom. And then I can use my slider bar. Oh, that is really big. Maybe I want 200% zoom. And I can use my slider bars on both the right-hand side and the bottom to move. And then to the far right is this little plus and minus. And this literally is just 10% at a time. Or you can just move the whole thing. Okay. I am of the opinion that these controls are important and they should probably be up here on the top ribbon, but nobody asked my opinion on that one. Undo and redo are supposed to be unlimited. I haven't really pushed it. In previous versions, it was like 10 or 20. You can take any piece of a super design, assuming that you have Premiere Plus Embroidery Extra or Premiere Plus Ultra. If you have Premiere Plus Intro or Premiere Plus Embroidery, you don't have the modify function. And well, honestly, I probably jumped way ahead. I haven't looked at all the tutorials recently. I usually pull them out like the night before class. Okay, but when people would buy software with me, a lot of people would say to me, you know, well, I just want the inexpensive, you know, I want the starter, I want intro, or I want embroidery. And I was a big proponent of, you know, do you just want to work with what's there? If you want to make changes to it, you want to take out a leaf, you want to move a thing, buy extra for the modify tab. That's really, really, to me, like one of the best things in the software. So the borders, the frames, the super designs. I'm a big holly person. Barbie laughs. So if you're a regular here, you already know this. But I have a weird, you know, we all have our weird things. I have a weird thing about holly. So here's again, under super designs, this is a corner under super designs. To me, it looks kind of Christmassy. I think it's fun. Come on, rotate. There we go. Kind of looks kind of like holly, right? I think I need a wreath of these. See, I'm showing you guys all my fun stuff. I'm going to go back to that Encore. This time I want to Encore in a circle. And a shape. I lied. I want to Encore in a shape. I want to Encore in a... Let's pick a shape. I really want a circle. The closest I'm going to get to a circle is going to be this guy. I want to go ahead and it put in 6 repeats. Preview that. Looks like a circle to me. Apply that. Nope, that's not what I want. I want to bring my circle in. Now I've made my own trivet for my Christmas table. Yeah, but I have to stitch it out. If I'm not happy with that, okay. Maybe I want to put it around the inside of my hoop. Okay, I'm going to preview it around my hoop. Well, oh, that was terrible. Apologies. I'm going to undo. See, I'm going to right click. Nope, not going to right click. I'm going to go home and delete the whole thing. Undo. Go back to a single. Okay. Go back to Encore. We can Encore around the inside of a hoop as well. And I have to zoom out for this one. So do you see how it just automatically puts something around the center of a hoop? Now I may not be super happy with that. They may say, you know what, it needs to have less of a gap. Maybe I want it to overlap a little. Make a preview. Oh, that got me some more. I can remove the corner pieces if I want. Preview that. more of an overlap. So here's the thing with the software. Just play with it. You can't hurt anything in software. Push the button, see what it does. Okay, on that night, it is 8:52. This lesson will sometimes I have a panic moment. I'm gonna have a panic moment right now. Oh, we are recording. Okay, I suddenly thought, did I not record this one again? It's happened before. So on that note, the video will go up onto YouTube tomorrow. There will be two. One is just what we did with me. The other will be the question and answer session before class started. The hope is to bring class in a little bit early, moving forward, and do question and answer. Even if you feel like you don't have the module of software that we're talking about in future classes, and the time frame is a little iffy because we weren't really sure how far we'd get. So we're just going to kind of keep going with this. The current plan is every other week until life gets in the way, which may be trainings or some summer vacation if such things actually happen this year. But we'd love to have you, along for the ride. And it's, even if you don't have that module, it's always a great thing to be able to see what's out there. And the question and answer session, even if you pop in at the beginning, the question and answer session is a really good time to maybe ask a quick question about something we've covered in the past. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Oh, somebody's coming from 3D. 3D was, I had DOS and then I went from DOS to 3D, and that was like bells and angels singing, and it was amazing. And so now we're into this really, really amazing stuff. So, okay, play with the software. Read the books if you've got them. If you don't have the printed quick start and you want them, let me know. If you want to purchase and download the tutorials and go back through what we've done on your own, because the way I present things isn't 100% the way it is in the tutorials, feel free to do that. If there's anything else that you need, you can ask me. We're a little crazy here. Oh, and if you need some fabric or you want to buy some stuff, look, I tell you to buy from your local shop. Well, we have all this stuff that is on sale right now. So feel free to go look at the website, which is sowhatde.com. We have all these specials for my 50th birthday, including here. I'll tell you guys when. So all of our Anita Good designs in stock are on sale. They're half price. And you need a coupon code. And I just typed the coupon code in there. Delaware is tax-free, so it offsets the shipping costs. But for the most part, I want you to buy from your local shop. But frankly, 50% off Anita Good Designs is at our cost. I was just in the mood to do some discounting and move some things out of the store. And I like to give things away for my birthday rather than get things. So I was like, discounts are good. Okay. Thank you guys. Everybody have a great night. It's good to see you, Beth, even though you didn't get to see me tonight. And let's see, who else is here? Cindy?
Thanks,
No?
Beth. Great.
Oh, good.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks. Any other questions? Hi, Marge. I saw you, Marge. Jan, how are you doing? You're on mute. Let's see. Hang on. You're talking to me and I can't hear you. Can you unmute?
I think I'm unmuted.
Yep, now you are.
Okay. It's on YouTube tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay, and I can still buy the lesson 3 materials.
Yes, but since you got your software from me, you need to give me a call.
Okay. All right. Sure enough. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
Okay. Bye.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay, Miss Cheryl, are you still here or did you pop out? Okay, you're still here. I would say, just as far as the classes, Cheryl, if you want to sit in, well, you're interested in upgrading anyway. But just to see kind of, I think everything from here on out will absolutely be unable to be replicated in the intro. But I do think it would be worth for you to see what more advanced software will do for you. Okie dokie. Call me or email me. I can't hear you. You're still on mute, woman. Okay, ladies. Thank you again.
Late birthday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you have to come in. There's balloons and all kinds of.
I was there today.
You didn't see the big 50 balloons at the front of the store?
But I didn't see you.
I was working.
Oh.
I do that occasionally. Handout materials. Oh, Patricia, that was actually on the link that we sent with the Zoom. The Zoom link was at the bottom of the page in that email, so that you guys would look at the other the other pieces. So there was the YouTube link, and then there was a link to the class where the lessons are available for download. Lesson 3 is not up yet, but it'll be there tomorrow when I post this up to YouTube. And you guys, I am mostly a one-woman shop with a bunch of part-timers who have saved me, but sometimes it takes me a little while to get things done. So don't hesitate to, yeah, there's no duh. There's really no duh in anything that we do. If there's anything that we can help you with, if you don't have a local shop, yeah. Joy, I emailed those to you.
Are the Anita Good designs on your website?
They are.
Okay.
So everything in stock is on the website. I
Okay.
will warn you. I had somebody who said it wouldn't let her purchase it. Some of them are coded incorrectly, so it won't let you add it to the cart. So if you come across one of those, just call and it takes 5 minutes. I'll fix it.
Okay.
Okay. There's no doubt. And Joy, I did email this to you. So check your email. I did. I promise. I didn't do it as early as I wanted, but I did it.
Send it to the district.
Oh, she
Yeah,
was.
last time I looked, they weren't there. I'll check again. Thanks.
Okay, check for spam, but no, I really did. But I sent it from the other email address. I sent it from the AOL email address.
Okay. Thank you.
You are welcome. Okie dokie. Is it getting warm up north, Miss Beth? Finally? You're on mute again.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording. I should probably stop the recording. Hang on. Nobody wants to hear all this. Let's stop the recording. I don't know how to stop the. Oh, there we go. Stop.